everybody, and welcome to this episode of The Archive. I am St. Godric, and today I have, let's see if I can get the whole thing out in one breath, Baron, Baronet, Warlord, Darth, Lord, Master, Juicy Kresh, Esquire, Defender of the Rising Winds from the Duchy of Blackfire Pass. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing really good, and that's impressive. How many people can spit all that out at once?
Say, I've had some practice with it, but I will say this is probably the longest one that I've seen, other than Kai. Kai has 17,000.
Yes.
Yeah, 17,000 titles in there. So everybody, if you're tuning in with us live tonight, feel free, throw all your comments in for Sir Juicy as we go throughout the evening. I can pull those up on screen. If you want to pick his brain as we go through, I'd love to get some interactions here. And if you're watching on YouTube and you want to see some more content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe and like button. It really does help with the algorithm. So Sir Juicy, I want to start off. Before you got into LARPing, were you a nerd?
Oh, yeah. I've been there my whole life.
What was your poison? What was the poison?
Just comics. I've been reading comics since I was 7 years old. I was an X-Men fan. I was Marvel and X-Men, all up until my late teens. Then I started reading DC, and I got into Green Lantern and stuff like that, which I have 3 of the 7 Lantern Corps already tattooed on my right arm. So
that's cool. What favorite X-Men?
Colossus.
Colossus is my second favorite. I like Nightcrawler and Colossus.
I'm the other way. Colossus and Nightcrawler.
Hey, I'll take that though. Out of all of them, the fact that we line up on those, that's close. Awesome. That's pretty close. I'll take that. So, comic books, any other what we would stereotypically call nerdy hobbies?
Video games. When we started doing RPGs, when we were about 12, 13, we started with Vampire the Masquerade. To my parents' dismay, they thought we were worshiping the devil and stuff like that, but we were just being kids. So, and then D&D when I was about 15, 16. And then we were playing in the back. One of the guys in our group worked at a gaming shop, and we were playing in the back, and we saw this random flyer. Said, "Do you like D&D? Try it for real." And I think I was 18 at the time, 18, almost 19. And that's what got me into Amtgard. I never stopped.
That's awesome. I wonder how, I've said this before in other episodes, how many people is Dungeons and Dragons the gateway drug into LARPing? I feel like it's got to be a ton.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean that's what did it for me. Just seeing the classes. You mean I can be I started as a barbarian, and it was my first and favorite class, and my first masterhood. And I loved it.
I've got a comic related question here.
I see that.
Ask him what is 3 comic arcs he would bring with him if he were stuck on an island. Also, love to see more supporters of Colossus.
I don't know what 3. I can tell you 2 off the top of my head. Blackest Night. And then the death of Superman, the rise of the four pretenders. So the reign of the Superman. That's what words I'm looking for. I don't know about a third one. No, the rest of them all kind of put together, honestly.
I like it. So you said barbarian first. Tell me a little bit about your first day at Amtgard. What was it like when you walked out there on the first day with the people? What sticks out in your mind all these years later?
So first, yes, I am part of House Augmenum. I am Green Lantern or Green Iron Man, which the name eludes me to that character right now.
I want to take a moment to take a break from our regularly scheduled programming and give a plug for my business, Dragon Masters. Over at Dragon Masters, I make woven belts for Amtgard, Dagger Here, and any other LARP that you can think of. At this point, I have hundreds of belts across most of Amtgard's kingdoms and across many different realms in Dagger Here and Belgarth. And my goal with these belts are to make belts that are going to last longer than you. My goal is to give you a legacy belt that you will be able to wear for as long as you want to wear it, but then will also be able to pass it down to that next generation, that next player in your belt line, at your park, friend, family, whatever it happens to be. All the belts that I make are made of paracord and macrame and are made of the highest quality materials. If you're interested in taking a look at my belts, there's a link in the description below for Etsy. On there, I have all sorts of belts that are ready to ship out the next day. These are ones I've already made. But if you're interested in something custom, check out my Dragon Masters Facebook page. You can go through and see all of the custom work that I have ever made. And I would love to get you a custom Knights belt or a custom Squire belt, or maybe you're looking for something in particular for a fighting company. I will also do discounts if you want to order a large amount for your fighting company, your park. Do discounts there. So thank you for listening to my plug. Let's get back to the main action.
But so we made our weapons before we ever went out to the park. We had basic tabards and weapons, and my first sword was 3/4 inch PVC with camp pad sandwiched together because I wanted a flat blade, all wrapped in duct tape.
Of course.
With a pillowcase hand sewn cover. I will never hand sew again in my life. Because it was the sword was 42 inches long. And I sewed the whole cover. Never again. I buy sewing machines now. But in our small little park, there was maybe about 10 people there. And we had a guy who was in plate mail and used a large shield. My Knight Sword Crosser was there, so I got, I've been around Knights the whole game, so it's never, I love when I go to places like, oh my God, a Knight. I'm like, yeah, I'm just a dude. Because that's how it was for me. And then, we had a bunch of, when Crosser's kids played, so they were 10, or maybe 15 or so. And,
15 kids or 15 years old? Okay, I was about to say, man.
He had 2, and they were about 15.
Okay.
But it was just, it was amazing. Just watching these guys just, go out and swing at each other and hit and nobody getting hurt. And growing up, you play with sticks and plastic swords and that stuff stings. But, it was nice to be hit and not care anymore.
So it was the combat, you would say, that was, because I know some people love the costuming or some people love the classes, but I feel like the majority of people I talk to on here, the thing that got them is I can hit people and not get in trouble. Yeah.
I've always loved guard. I love dressing. I love the dressing up aspect, being able to have my unique style. Like what I'm in right now is, Moon Knight tunic that I had made for myself. I did love that. I always will love that. It's my favorite part of the game. Just seeing other people in garb and their creative styles and things like that. It's just amazing. But yeah, at the beginning, what kept me here was the combat, but anymore, it's the people. I just keep coming back for the people that are out here. I like the bulk of the people that we kind of gravitate towards and keep around us. That they're fun to be around.
I'm in the same boat because I cross game quite a bit, and I always tell people, eat the meat and spit out the bones from all the different games. Each game's going to have things you like, and each game's going to have things you don't like. And one of the things that I enjoy the most about Amtgard is the people. Yeah. I think other games do other things a little bit better on off the field and on the field. But what brings me back, competitive Bridge Wars style class games and my friends. That's, what I mean? That's what always brings me back.
I love Bridge Wars.
Me too. We'll get to that. We'll get to Bridge Wars here in a bit. But question here from Fuzz. Juicy, what was your first go-to weapon combination?
Sword and small shield. I've always had a very active defense, so I used a small shield, which for a guy my size, I'm 6 foot 300 pounds, so I'm a big dude. And the max small shield and a max length short sword were my go-tos when I first started playing. And then I found Florentine, and I've never went back.
Found the poison, and it infected.
It's my crutch through and through. When I'm like, I'm going to win this game, I go pick up Flo and just mow through people.
I love it. So early park days, combat, you love the costumes. You said your knight was there. Are there any particular memories that stick out from first, few months playing the game, like what set the hook? At what point did you realize, okay, I'm in this?
Honestly, day one, I was hooked from the first time I swung a sword. And like I swung a sword, I hit this dude in the hip. He called dead, and I felt amazing. Like I won my first ever fight in Amtgard, and it hooked me. There was about 8 of us that started playing all at the same time. I'm the only one that still plays. Awesome. But at the time, I mean, you know, I had an old 83 station wagon that we would all pile into, and it'd be, you know, 2 in the front, 3 in the middle, and then 4 people in the far back. You know, you gotta love that image there. Safety first.
Of course, always.
But you know, we drove the 35 minutes across town to play, and on Saturday, and then we found out about Blackfire Pass on Sunday. Because my actual first group was Falcon's Ridge, which was actually under Dragonspine. So I've been under a couple kingdoms in my tenure here.
I didn't know that. How did we get a Dragonspine kingdom in Ohio?
So the gentleman one of the crosser, helped found Dragonspine and Pegasus Valley, which is their first duchy. And then he moved from New Mexico to Ohio to be. I don't remember why he moved here, honestly. It's been a long time. But once he was here, he founded the park and decided to keep it under Dragonspine because Rising Winds didn't exist at the time. Well, at least the kingdom of Rising Winds didn't exist. They were just a conglomeration of parks in Indiana. And, you know, then like 2 parks in Ohio. But, so he kept it under Dragonspine. So, you know, and then a number of years later, we went under, then I started playing at Blackfire Pass, who was under Golden Veil. So it was a little confusing because.
That is.
Well, and then because at the time you had Shot in Motion and Atomic Clock. And one park was Shot in Motion and one was Atomic Clock. So some days were confusing on, you know, who hit what and what shot counted.
Give me a 30-second rundown of the difference between those two for viewers who have never heard of it or weren't around in that era.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been around a little while. So Shot in Motion is very similar to what we have now. Our current system is Shot in Motion with a little tweaks here and there. We didn't have a definition on what actually was a shot in motion, like how now it's, you know, within a quarter second or half second, something like that. It was just if you were in motion, the shot counted. Atomic Clock is whoever hit first. So if we're swinging and you hit my arm before I hit you, that shot on you doesn't count. So you get the big thing about Atomic Clock was just being faster. So you didn't block. You just hit them first, and then you didn't have to take whatever they were throwing at you. So jumping between the 2 different styles of combat was a bit of a pain there for a while. Eventually, you got used to it,
and I bet that the styles were completely different.
Oh yeah,
because I mean, I'm assuming you would have a very fast, you know, sling, very short shots because it's all about speed. Where the other one, it's more block out and be able to get in. And I could see that leading to very different fighting.
Exactly.
Quite this off topic. Do you know what time Amtgard standardized? Like what year roughly did it become Shot in Motion as like V standard? Was that a V7 thing? It was
V7. Okay. It's all standardized in V7. I don't remember what year that was though.
Because I came in in 7.7 and it was a thing it was already done. So it was before my time. When they transitioned to 7, they codified everything and moved everybody to one standard. So we didn't have, and when they got rid of Atomic Clock, I was ecstatic. I was good at it. Like I said, I have an active defense. So I would block and then chop, and doesn't matter how fast you are. I just held my arm there and you hit me, and then I block and I hit you. You know, because everybody threw the very similar shots. They tried to pop your forearm or, you know, or your shoulder. So you just kind of hold your sword here and they hit your hand and you're just like, yep, I hit you now. So if you could block, you were destructive in Atomic Clock because nobody did. So yeah. When they codified it, I was ecstatic. 7 in general changed a lot of different things from 6 that I just didn't like.
6 foot, for lack of a better term, was a bastardized system for Amtgard, and every park had their own house rules, and they're like, well, we don't like this rule, so we just threw it out, and we do this instead. So like when you travel to other kingdoms and other games, you'd show up and be like, can I get a list of your rules so I know what we're playing here? Like they had I would drive out to Maryland to their events back in those days. And, when you show up there, half the rule book wouldn't be followed, and you're just hoping you know what's going on.
That's nuts to me. Like a keep or something like that just wouldn't even be possible without a standardized rule set.
Nope. Yeah,
that would be so frustrating, just having to learn all the house rules. And I know certain parks do that now, but
most things here and there.
But most of the Amtgard is the same no matter where I go. Yeah. It would be so frustrating.
It used to drive me nuts. I mean, hell, just playing between two different parks. I played on Saturday and a different park on Sunday. It took me a few months just to learn the difference in the two rule sets there.
Fuzz asks, do you remember regional/park classes? I've never heard of that, so explain that to me.
So they had various, and they did this. So you had different classes. Most of them weren't necessarily regional, but I've played mostly in the Midwest. So we had our class. Like there was the duelist class. And you had your witch hunter class, just slight variants. I remember the duelist class was my favorite because it had an ability called dodge. So if you get 2 dodge points per life, if someone hits you, you say something like "Olay" or "Aha," and the shot doesn't count no more.
I love it.
Little spell balls and just random hits, and you're just like, nope. The witch hunter class was every time you went up a level, you were immune to that level of magic. So first level, you're immune to all first level magic, and then all the way up. I do remember the samurai class. We had a gentleman out here named Chiba that would play the hell out of it.
Yep. And that dude was the quintessential samurai. Like when I think samurai and Amtgard, Chiba's pretty much the only one I think of.
And it's that way with most people. When they got rid of it, he shed a tear. He's like, oh, they got rid of my class. I'm like, I'm sorry, bud. And he started playing barbarian. He's like, it's the closest thing I got.
I'm surprised he didn't go warrior.
Nope. He didn't like heavy armor. Okay. So he wore medium armor, like heavy leathers. So barbarian was a bit easier for him than trying to play warrior because in 7, warrior was all about the heaviest armor you could get because your 6th level ability was an extra point of armor. So you want to be and the warrior's job was to take out people like archers. Yes, we had the swashbuckler class as well. I enjoyed playing that one too. But archers, would do 5 points of damage that would carry through. So, if you get hit with an arrow, you have to look around and see who's holding up their hand so you know who hit you because it was either 2 points, 4 points, or 5 points, depending on who shot you.
I remember those days. Yeah.
So you're just looking around for someone to sell 5, and they're like, okay, now I'm dead now. And if nobody said anything, you just counted as 2 and just kept going.
The supercharged arrows, and then just get whiffed half the time. You're like, that's just wasted. I love it. So at what point then did Ohio Amtgard start to resemble the Ohio Amtgard that I know now? So instead of 3 kingdoms, it became part of the Rising Winds or Principality. Like what was give me a brief history of Ohio Amtgard where you grew up in.
I want to say 2005.
Okay.
We all decided to all go under the Rising Winds. And then under Rising Winds, we formed a principality. So we had the Principality of Midgard. And then that's where the groups all started working together and all started, trying to help each other out and build basically what Midgard is now. It's had its ups and downs, but I'd say about 2005 or so. Was when everything conglomerated under the Rising Winds. Because I want to say Rising Winds started in 2002. Yeah, and we I remember their first event even. I went out for their coronation. And then, we at that time we had folded Falcon's Ridge, and we were all playing at Blackfire Pass, who was under Golden Veil. And Golden Veil treated us really good. the only downside of Goldenville was just that we never were going to see knighthoods. Really, at that time, the only people that were getting knighthoods were either people in Goldenville proper, in Nashua, or people who were really close to them. So like the rabble basically in Ohio was like, well, we're never going to see this stuff because we're not going to travel to New Hampshire. Yeah. And we're never going to, like I had great friends up there, don't get me wrong. And some of them I still consider friends, even though we don't talk as much as I would like, but I'm horrible at communication. So it's mostly my fault. But, I got amazing memories with the people up there. I wouldn't trade for the world. But we decided all to go in Rising Winds. Rising Winds offers, once we were all there and had all our groups together, because I think we had about 6 groups at the time, if I remember right.
Okay.
And we're like, well, maybe we want to be a kingdom. Like, we can do this, right? Yeah, sure, let's do this. So we formed the Principality. And then we saw what being a kingdom was going to be like, and we changed our mind real quick. We let the Principality fold, and we all just, became our little baronies and shires and whatnot again. And then we just decided we don't need our own kingdom if we just take over Rising Winds. So that's where, and even to this day, it's not often you see a Rising Winds monarchy without a member of Midgard on it.
Yep.
So we just kind of decided we're going to take over Rising Winds, and we started doing it.
And now Rising Winds has grand duchies, which are essentially mini principalities. And these grand duchies have their own events, and they have their own coffers, and they run very similar to a principality, just not with the
basically
limit.
The same thing, honestly, because in the old days we didn't have a time limit. Like Rising Winds now has a time limit on principalities.
2 years.
So, we didn't have that back then. So the only difference between the old principality and a new grand duchy is principalities can give 9th. Grand duchies can give 8th. Other than that, the groups are exactly the same.
For all of my Winter's Edge friends who are watching, they're hearing of a limit on principalities. You can only be a principality for 2 years, and then you get dropped. They're horrified at that, man.
Oh, I'm sure.
Principality for like 15 years or whatever they were.
Forever. I went down there a handful of times to see people. Just went, but Winter's Edge was around forever and a day.
Yep, they were. I want to say they started, like they became a principality roughly the same time, if I recall, that Rising Winds was formed, and then they just got their got the kingdom. I want to say 2017, 2018, something like that.
That also sounds about right.
So they were a principality for a while.
Exactly, like 15 years. And they were happy with it, and they gave them everything they needed. So, and so every now and again, you'll get some rumbling here in Midgard, like maybe we should do our own thing. I'm like, but the events are even in Ohio these days, guys. We don't need our own kingdom. We run this one. We're fine.
Yep. One of the biggest complaints that I had when I was a member of the Rising Winds was how big the kingdom was. Oh, yeah. And so when I think about how do we fix that, the most obvious one for me is, well, Ohio is big enough to be its own kingdom, but then you still get this really long north-south kingdom if whatever was left. And so I don't know how the Rising Winds really could fix because you can't really do east-west because then Ohio's split in two, and that's not going to work, right? But if you cut it north-south, then you've got Michigan, Indiana, and Kentucky. That doesn't solve the driving 12 hours across your kingdom problem.
Yeah, I've thought about this, over the years, and I've never been able to think of a good, happy medium for Rising Winds, because we're just so spread out that it's hard to pick areas here, there, that we're.
I could see
kingdom or this one, and
I could see maybe an Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, and then an Indiana, Michigan, maybe. But then that's still from the Western Kentucky parks to the Northeastern Ohio parks. That's still 12 hours or whatever.
Yeah, it's like 8 hours, I think, from corner to corner. It's still an insane amount of traffic. It
is. And there's really no, based on the geography of the groups, there's really no easy way to break that up.
Nope.
And I don't have an easy solution for it. You know what I mean? It's one of those. It's like, oh no, what do we do with it?
Exactly. That's I'm right there with you. it's been in the same boat. Like, man, I'd really like to change this, but I don't know how.
Yep. My easy solution is Dirty Ohio needs to leave and form their own kingdom. That's just the most logical conclusion that I can come to.
So I used to joke that I'd have to make Ohio a kingdom before I'd ever get my crown belt and my sword belt. But apparently I've done good enough here that they're finally going to give it to me for, just for time spent. Like, here, you've been here long enough. You can have these things now.
There you go. So before we get into talks on masterhood and knighthood, I want to ask you if they're going, as you were looking back on yourself as a new player, is there anything you wish you would have known then that you know now? And what advice would you give to someone who's just getting into the game, something you wish you would have known?
So I don't think there's anything. So I am a firm believer in ignorance is bliss. Just have fun at your part. Don't worry about the big stuff. Come out, ditch, play battle games, have a good time. Before I ever got into politics or worrying about the upper echelon groups and things like that, I had so much more fun at Amtgard.
Agreed. Same. 100%.
So I to this day, when we have new players come out and they're like, well, what about the politics? I'm like, no, just have fun. You don't want to worry about that yet. Give yourself time to just enjoy the game. Yep. And don't worry about that stuff right now. When you can swing a sword like it's easily and hit people easily, then we'll start talking about group leadership and what you want to your next goals. Just have fun.
That's one of the things that I have caught myself recently having to catch, I've caught myself on, is I am talking with my new players about kingdom level events, kingdom level tournaments and ANS and all this stuff. And they're like, oh, well, I'm ready to jump into kingdom. And I'm like, oh man, I need to watch what I say.
No.
Well, and I always tell people, especially in tournaments, you fight in whatever tournament you can. If you're a first day newbie and your first day is at a kingdom tournament, go fight in the kingdom tournament. That's awesome. Go have fun. But with ANS, hang out a little bit, max out your local award, right? Yep. And so I have new players who are sitting at like 2 dragons and like, okay, I'm ready to go to kingdom. And I'm like, oh man, I set them up for failure because I've been chatting too much about the higher level stuff. It's like, nah, you guys just enjoy your time here. Don't worry about that stuff yet. So you haven't even been to your first event yet.
Yeah, like just fine. One of the things I've been preaching recently, because Blackfire passes the duchy, so I'm like 1 through 7 at your duchy, you get 8 at your grand duchy, then you worry about kingdom.
Yep.
Do the small stuff here because we'll take care of you.
100%. Well, and I think it sets you up to stair step a lot easier. Yeah. I know for me, and people who have watched my videos before have heard me, cry this story a whole lot. I won my first kingdom level dragon master with 3 dragons. Mm-hmm. And so I got a kingdom level win and I got a 4th dragon. Second place got a 9th. Third place got an 8th. Fourth place got an 8th. I at first place got a 4th. Yeah. And as a 6, I was maybe like 2 or 3 years in, maybe at that point, I didn't understand why. Right. I how in the world my stuff was better? Why can it, and that almost drove me out of the game because I just couldn't understand it. I was like, why am I? Save yourself the heartache. Yeah. Have fun at your local level, max out your local stuff, slowly stair step your way up, and you'll get there.
Yep. That's what I tell, especially now. I've gotten really good at telling people, bear with me, I'm looking down to turn my alarm off before it starts going off.
No worries, man.
As I realize what time it was. Even now I tell people, top out your local part, do all your stuff there. And then, Grand Duchy has made this nice that you don't, you have that's tier to go into now. I'm like, all right, once you've maxed out your local, then go to Grand Duchy. And then once you max out there, then you go to Kingdom and start doing stuff there. You're more likely to see the awards lower than you are higher. Yeah. Not saying Kingdom doesn't take care of their people, because they really do, especially these days. They're, it's much easier to get your 5 through 10 at Kingdom than it used to be. Just a couple years ago, you like in your case, you'd show up and win and you'd get a 4th. Well, sometimes if you just took like a 3rd place, they wouldn't give you your fourth because they're like, well, the park will handle that.
Yep.
And you just get overlooked. So we're definitely much better about that these days, which I'm excited for.
Well, in a kingdom, the size of the Rising Winds, it is difficult. Yeah. It's a difficult logistics issue because there are 2,500 players or whatever. I don't know how many people are in the Rising Winds now, but if you're entering
40 groups, so enough.
Yeah, like a ton. And so and more often than not, people aren't slighting you, but it's hard to tell someone that when they feel slighted. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's probably you're not getting slighted. It's just you got overlooked, which still sucks.
So many people.
Because there's so many people.
Yeah. And especially like when you're looking at quals, for instance. Luckily, it's not like it used to be.
nine items or whatever.
Yeah. Before I go on that tangent, we'll say. But, I think we had 40 items at our last quals. If you have 3 dragons in this plethora of stuff entered, you're getting that fourth from kingdoms sometimes a challenge. It really relies on that regent putting in the extra legwork to find out where everybody is and what awards they need to get given. And luckily we have those kind of regents here recently that have done these things for people, which I think is awesome. But when I ran for regent, I had to have 10 items in 10 different categories.
It's ridiculous.
Monarch had to have 10 items in 7 categories. Champion had to have 5 items. So I have seen a quals with 150 entries.
Well, and then you get people like me who don't understand the point of quals as a new player.
And you enter too.
And I want to win, so I'm entering 10 items. I don't know why. I got to have 10 to win.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I have definitely seen quals with 150 items that they started at noon, and at 9:30 when the sun's going down, they're still judging.
Yeah.
Our tournaments were just as bad. We'd have 13 brackets for quals, and we did all bracketed then. So if 40 people showed up, every round was bracketed. I have seen 10-hour tournaments.
Gross.
It was horrible. I don't miss those days at all.
Yeah. So you're talking, we got into a little bit there on masterhood and kind of that climb. So if I recall correctly, you master Rose first, master Crown, and then Warlord, right?
Correct.
Did I get any others that I'm missing there?
Nope, that's where I'm at right now.
Perfect. So we'll do them in order. So I like how you said right now too. Good mindset. I like it. Let's start with Rose. So what was your Rose path defined by? What did it look like from, early levels up through your masterhood? What was your Rose work?
So I should actually probably be a Master Smith more than a Master Rose or even Master Lion. My 8 of my roses are for running events. My first rose was for driving 8 people to the park every week. That came from Sir Thorvald. My 6th rose came from spending 4.5 hours cleaning up a Great Eastern site after everybody else had left and left the site trashed. So me and my knight spent 4 hours cleaning it up. Every other rose is for running an event. I ran... my first event was an event we called Valhalla. I was supposed to be a shadow autocrat. The autocrat just didn't show up.
Oh, no.
I had only ever been to one other event.
Man.
So I literally hit the ground running.
And we're talking a real 100-person, 150-person event, right? We're not talking like a
80 to 100.
Yeah, we're not talking a day event. Yeah.
Right. No, this was a full weekend, Friday to Sunday, and back then we had games on Sunday too, because most people didn't have a lot of traveling, so we treated Sunday as a park day. So the event ran from Friday at 4 p.m. to Sunday at 6 p.m. And I'd been to one event. Luckily I had been in on all the planning stages, so I knew what was supposed to happen, but had no idea really what I was doing. But people left saying they had a blast, so I must have done something right. And then And then the officers came to me and they're like, hey, we want to run another event. Would you do it again? I'm like, well, hell, I've done it once. Sure. I guess this time I get to plan it, so I might as well. And then everything else, and it just up the run, just for various events. For my masterhood, I ran 3 events in 1 year, the smallest which of being was 120 people, all of which made a profit. Like,
that's big.
So, yeah. I ran 2 events in Ohio and then a kingdom level event. And they were all huge. And that's how I earned my masterhood.
That's awesome. So, where do you fall on this It's an ongoing conversation, and I wish that we would have Dusty, if you're still listening. AI needs to come in, or not AI, probably a rules committee needs to clarify this, I think, on a national level. Where do you fall on events and planning events when it comes to the award ladder? Which of the 3 ladders do you think it should fall under? It
really depends on what you're doing. The reason I say I
hate
Smith,
that answer.
Well, it really does.
I know.
If it depends on what kind of autocrat you are. Like, I'm a very hands-on autocrat. I don't delegate very well. I'm horrible at delegation. All my events, I was autocrat and warocrat. When I was coming up, we didn't have a different ocrat for everything. You had gate, you had feast, you had auto. And that's all you had. So, I ran all my own event. I ran all my own games. I did all the planning. I was involved in everything. So I'm not if you're the type of leader that has their hands in everything and is doing all that work, I don't see a point not giving you all 3.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
My problem with it is most often I've seen people rotate the 3 to like, oh, I don't want to give this person a 9th, so I'm going to give them a 4th down here, a 6th down, and that's what I don't like. I want it to be the other way
too. You can, if someone's at 8 lions but 5 roses, or if they're 8 lions and 10 roses, they get that next lion. So I've seen it go both ways, which I really like. I like seeing people get their higher tiers, for doing those kind of things as well. It does suck when you get a monarch who's like, well, I don't think you deserve an ace, so here's your 5th. But I don't think
we want to give you something, but
right. I don't think events will ever be able to be clearly codified, because it's one of those things that it really depends on what kind of autocrat you are. If you're a hands-off delegator and you just kind of watch everybody and lead from the top, that's definitely a lion. If you're running all your games and your hands, you're doing that, you should see a Smith in a row. So I don't think they'll ever be properly codified. Don't get me wrong, I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
I'm with you there, but I don't think it'll ever happen.
Yeah, I am probably a bit jaded on a topic because my belts were very similar, right? I got floated between the 3 for a long time. And so
I did too.
I feel bad when my friends when I feel like they get floated because of each monarch has a different opinion on it. And so this monarch says roses, well, the next monarch says lions, even though it's the same work for the same person. And like that, I think that can lead, doesn't always, but I think it can lead to some burnout from our volunteers. And those, especially down the flame path, those are the volunteers that want to put extra energy into not burning out.
It's hard. I've played 20 years with no breaks. I am blessed that I've been able to step back when I'm starting to feel burnout, and other people have stepped up. I've been like, hey, I need to not run an event for the next 8 months, but I'll gladly help you do it. And, I've always had people willing to step up and take those reins from me. And I think that's the only reason I've been able to avoid burnout is because of that. When I get tired and when I'm worn down, I'm like, hey, can someone help? And there's always someone there too. There has always been someone there to help me.
That's awesome. It's kind of I heard this a lot when I was coming up, and I didn't really realize it until I got, my 7, 8, 9. the idea of networking and how important that is. And being, especially in Crown and Flame, having a solid network of people that you can lean on is key to your success.
Oh, definitely.
So if we take a look then at your roses, what advice would you give to people? Say we have 3 different players. We have one, they have one rose. They got it for picking up trash at their park. They're trying to push what's the next step for that person. Then second person, maybe they're helping run a local Grand Duchy event or, 100-person sub event. And then you have someone who's at like 8, 9 trying to push for that masterhood. What advice would you give for each of those 3 stages?
Your low tier, just continue to help out around the park. They'll come to you. If you become that go-to guy at your park, the awards will follow suit. So just keep doing what you're doing. And actually, I will give that same advice to all 3 of them. Just you're going the right direction. Just keep doing what you're doing, and just maybe do it a little bit bigger every time up the scale. And get to know people. Get yourself the biggest, strongest support system that you can get, and that will go more towards your upper tier, your 2 upper tiers. Build a support system. That way, when you decide I want to run a bigger event, you can be like, all right, I got my gate, got my feast, got my warlocrat already all lined up because I have my support structure following me. And then you can put in your bid and go from there. And that goes for both of them. Like I said, I might be a little outdated because all of mine are for running events. So, I don't know what you're supposed to do to get a 6th through 8th. I just ran more events. So, for my understanding, your 6 through 8, 6 through 9, most of the time falls under one of the crap positions that is not auto, right? So do your feast, do your clean, and I think even 10 masterhood can be given for doing those things multiple times and excellent. Multiple times or excel at it. Yeah. I've seen masterhood given for gate, and they did an amazing job, and they deserve it for it. I don't necessarily think you need to be an autocrat to earn that masterhood.
I agree.
Because every job has its pros and cons, and every job requires a different skill set. Yep. And you may not want to be that autocrat. Like, I've never been king. I never want to be king. It's just a job I don't want to ever do. I love every other office. I like monarch at lower levels. I just do not want to deal with the bullshit that comes with being king. So
I get it. it.
When I got my master crown and I danced the jigs, I never have to be king. It doesn't have to happen now. It made me ecstatic.
So what kingdom, you said, I know the answer, but what kingdom offices other than monarch then have you held, and how many times have you done them?
So I have held every office from Shire to Kingdom except Grand Duchy PM and King. As for how many times I've held those offices, I don't even want to think about how many times I've held all those offices. Like, I am currently Duke of my park for the umpteenth time. I don't even want to think about how many times I've held these offices. That's what kind of came up for me to get my master crown and never being king, is because they were just like, York did the little survey and it was like, how many times have you held this park? 5+. And I was like, click, 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 all the way down the rung. So, I mean, heck, for Grand Duchy, I went Regent, Duke, and Champion in a row and just knocked all of them out at once.
So what advice would you give, or I guess, how about this? What goes in at all levels of the game to being a good leader, an elected leader? What skill sets should someone be focusing on? What are the things that they need to be worried about and prepping for? What makes a good elected official in our game?
Charisma. You need to be able to charisma and tact.
Sorry, I don't mean that. It's correct. That's why I'm laughing. But how many now? I think
I know
you can have a lot of one, and if you don't have the other, it's not really going to work for
exactly.
you.
You have to have both, because and there will be times that you're not going to have that tact that you need because this person has just got on your last nerve. But you have to have that, even keep that last little bit so you don't just blow up at the park. And I can count on one hand how many times I've blown up at the park, luckily. And they were all before I was knighted. I have never blown up once since I've been knighted. I call it my white conscience. Whenever I start to get mad and start to get frustrated, I grab the belt and I walk away.
Yep.
Yeah, charisma and tact, you have to be able to talk to people and pull the right information out of them. If they're complaining about something, you need to figure out what they actually are complaining about. Like, well, these games aren't, going fast enough. Like, well, are they? Is it the downtime that's slowing you down? Is it that the game is too long and slow? Like, what exactly do I need to work on here? So, having that mindset to ask probing questions, kind of like IT work, you want to ask the right questions for people and know how to respond to them when you get those answers. So it doesn't look like, and if it's something you can't fix, that both of those things come in there. You have to know how to say to someone like, well, I'll work on it. Let me see what I can do, so they don't feel like they're being blown off. Mm-hmm. And then you can go back to and this goes back, you have to have that support structure. So you can go back to your support structure. Like, well, we've had some complaints about this and this. What can we do to fix it, guys? And then you brainstorm and you hopefully fix the problem.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of it is in Crown and elected officials, like what you said there, dealing with problems as they come up, especially at Park. Does that change when you get to Kingdom? Like, well, what's the difference between local office, Grand Duchy office, Principality office, Kingdom? Is it all the same skill set? Do I need to develop different ones?
What is different? Every tier is different. The same basic principles. You need that charisma and tact at all levels, but you need more. I would say at local Park, you need that more one-on-one and being able to talk to people. And get what you need out of them a little bit more than you need at the overarching offices, like your Grand Duchy, your Principality, your Kingdom. Those offices are more, particularly Monarch, you're a cheerleader. If you have good champion, regent, and PM, you don't need to do a whole lot. Yep. You can rely on your people, make sure they're doing what they're doing, and then just deal with stuff as it comes in. You have a little bit of that at Park level, but as you're the feet on the ground, they come right to you. If you're king, when they come to you, you can be like, well, I don't really handle that. Talk to my champion. He's doing that for me. If he doesn't help you, then come back to me. Mm-hmm. So you're not necessarily the feet on the ground leading from the front. You're the general in the back pointing the directions.
I love it. I feel like at Kingdom level, your energy is applied differently than it is at lower levels. Because at least for me, I've done one reign as Kingdom Regent, and I did a lot of work leading up to 1 or 2 weeks. And then the rest of the time, it's really pretty chill. It's pretty easy. Where at Park, I'm not necessarily putting in as high of peak energy, but I'm having to put in significantly more energy over, week over week over week. And so if you're thinking about time in, right, which one do you want to do? Are you willing or able to be able to put in, 3 hours a week? Then maybe you want to do local Park level. But if you have the time to spend 20 hours in 2 weeks that are spread out, but maybe not as much of the other, like there is a different time commitment depending on the office there.
Definitely.
So when you are in office, what is your favorite part about it? Like, what do you enjoy? You've done it so much. What keeps you coming back to being an officer in our game?
Because someone has to do it. I would love to say that I like the job and, that I just keep doing it but I do it because I'm a glutton for punishment, and somebody has to do it. Especially right now, all their numbers are down. Nobody has the time. They can do what you need them to do. So, someone has to step up, and that's, and actually that's one of the things Rick has told me, it's like, that's what I see. That's why you're a master crown, because you step up when someone needs to step up. You're always there to make sure everything's taken care of and done. My favorite job's PM. I enjoy PM. I like the paperwork side of things. I like being an admin. I've been an orc admin for 15 years. I randomly became an orc admin on the Orc 2 because Ruth got drunk in an event and told me, "You're going to do this now." And I said, "Sure." And then when I got home, he remembered that he told me I was going to do this now, and made me an admin. So when he didn't want to mess with stuff, he'd be like, "Hey, Juice, take care of this for me." And I'm like, "All right, fine." And, I would enter, random groups' weekly credits because that PM can't access the orc that day. So they would email me their part credits, and I'd enter them in for them.
And I know you've helped me out quite a few times on that stuff.
Yeah, when we went to the Orc 3, Megiddo, Noah, he's like, you're gonna stay an orc admin, right? When I write this code, I'm like, do I have a choice? And he's like, no. Like, thanks, Noah. We have a good relation. I lived in Texas for about 6 months to help my grandparents out. And the park I played at was Mortengard, and that's where Megiddo played. So we got to be really good friends over the course of that winter. So, when I got back home and he was writing the new orc, he's like, "I'm not giving you a choice here. You're going to help me." I'm like, "Fine. I got your back, bub. I got you."
I love it. So the flip side to that question is, so you don't really enjoy it, but it needs to be done. So what's the most difficult part of it? Like what's the thing when you're serving as an elected official that you just dread every time it comes up?
I don't think I have anything that I dread. There's no part of it that I'm like, no, I just don't want to deal with this. I mean, everything has its, its quirks and nuances, but I've done it and seen it all. So it's very rare for someone to come at me and be like, "Well, this just happened," and me to go, "I don't know what to do." Because, it just doesn't happen often. So at this point, there's nothing I dread because I can handle it all. Not to sound arrogant, it's just experience. 20 years of playing, I've seen and done just about everything you can see and do. So, and especially now, Amtgard is a much better place now than it used to be. The early and mid 2000s was a much different, darker time that we old people don't like to talk about in proper company because it was bad stuff.
Well, I'll skip ahead a little bit because that's one of my questions on here that anybody who has been playing longer than me, I always ask this question. I have heard on both sides of the coin that Old Guard is just the absolute best. We need to go back to Old Guard. Why? I hear all these great war stories and how the culture was better and all of this. But then on the other hand, I hear all of these horror stories about, and Old Guard will laugh and go, "Well, we would be banned now." Ha ha, chuckle, chuckle. Like, so was Old Guard as good as I have heard it was? And was it as bad as I have heard it was?
So I don't think I've heard many stories in both directions for good and bad, of course. And even some of them that people will tell me, they're like, "Well, this one time you did this." I'm like, that didn't actually happen that way, but you believe what you want to believe, you're fine. And there's other times where there'll be other stories like, "Well, you did this." And like, yeah, actually it was worse than that. So we'll not talk about what actually happened. We'll just not to worry about that anymore. So it has its pros and cons, but if you were to ask me where I'd like to play, I want to play now.
Cool. How come?
We're not afraid to get rid of bad people. If you weren't a sex offender in the early 2000s, you you could get away with whatever you wanted. We only got rid of you if you were a known pedophile. If you were just a complete and utter douchebag to everybody around you, they still wouldn't get rid of you. And and now we get rid of you. If you're ruining everybody's fun, you're gone. And I love it. I'm all for getting rid of people that are ruining everybody's fun. So it's easily what I like more about that, because even if you saw someone doing predatory things and you're like, I think he's going to do bad stuff, you couldn't do anything until he did that bad stuff. So, it was a much different world, and I wouldn't go back to it. It was fun at the time. Like, it was my early and mid 20s. So, at the time I loved it. It was a blast. But if the game were to revert to that now, I wouldn't play anymore. It just wouldn't be for me at this point in my life. It was great at the time, but never again. So
that's an interesting take, because I've heard quite a bit of I was 20 and it was fun then, but now at 30 or 40, I don't think it would be. But I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that if the culture was now what it was then, I would not play. No, that's a really interesting take. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I turned 40 in May, and I've definitely got all the partying out of my system, and it wouldn't be from that style of play wouldn't be for me these days. I'm older. I'm more refined. And I got away with a lot more back then than I would get away with too. I got Sargon was playing out in Crystal Groves and asked someone their opinion of me, and the response was, he's a great knight, but an asshole as a person. I'm like, that's a pretty accurate statement for when I was playing in Crystal Groves. So I'm not surprised he feels that way about me. But yeah, it was a really night and day between the two games.
It's almost like it is a completely different game. If you played in 99 and took a break and were just coming back now, you wouldn't recognize the game. So
so Sir Wanderer now plays at Blackfire Pass. He was knighted in 93 and played until mid 2000s and then took a long break. And he's just now coming back. And we've spent the last year, almost 2 years at this point, reacclimating him to how the game works now compared to how it works then. And, he's done really great strides in becoming a better person and a better knight than he would have been otherwise without help. Because it was a completely different game for him. And like between the rules changes and the culture shifts, and when he first came back, some of the older knights that have since left warned him. They're like, you better be on your best behavior. They'll ban you for no reason. Like, no, we won't ban you for no reason, but we will ban you for being a shitheel. So,
yep. I understand both sides of it there. If you grew up in a game where you don't ban anybody, and now we're banning even 2 people a year, it's going to feel like that's 200% more,
Exactly. Yeah.
But 2 people a year in a kingdom of 2,500 people isn't that bad. You know what I mean? Like,
you're at a 0.01% banning rate.
That's not bad.
Exactly. But if you're come from the land where no one gets banned for anything, I mean, I was at a spring war when I lived in Texas, which would have been 16 years ago. And someone got stabbed.
I've heard stories of that one.
And they didn't ban him. He went to jail and then came out and played Amtgard the next week. Like, that just blows my mind.
Yep. Yep.
Like, really? Like, he stabbed someone over a girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, at the event, he stabbed him and is playing the next week. Like, just I couldn't wrap my head around it because, in Blackfire Pass, we've never dealt with that. If you came to the park and you were ruining people's fun, we asked you to leave. Mm-hmm. Like, we may not be able to ban you, but we will ignore you. We will just pretend you don't exist. And we haven't had to do it often, but we've done it.
That's what a Navrin told me. When I was up in park leadership a couple years ago. I'm like, hey, we've got this issue, and kind of getting his advice. He's my knight. What do I need to do with this? And he goes, look, if you can't get your people to ban him, all you guys have to do is get up and move 100 feet over and ignore him. Like, if every single person there doesn't play with them, they will not have fun and will not.
And they'll leave.
And just pick up and move.
We in Golden Vale's Kapora at the time, there wasn't a way to ban people. We added it to the Kapora, or we helped add it to the Kapora. So we have a problem that needs codified, and we went to them, and they're like, well, I guess you could ban them with an all thing. And all things do everything, right? Yeah, do that. Do it with an all thing. So the next week we're like, they told us to do this, so go away. And they showed up the next week, and they're like, well, it's a public park. I can be here. And we're like, yeah, okay. And we moved, we moved down to the next picnic bench and just ignored their presence altogether. And finally they left.
Yep.
But there was no way to ban somebody. Like when the COCs were made up, I'm like, this is beautiful. Thank you. Oh, finally. I have reasons. This is wonderful.
Yeah, it made the game, I don't want to say simpler, but it gave standards that everyone could then point to. Agree or disagree, we at least have standards that we can discuss the topic with now. Mm-hmm. Where before, those weren't there. No,
not at all. It was... And you wonder, how could we get this far into the game? Because, the game was 20 years old at that point. You're like, how did we get this far without these rules? And the wrong people didn't want to be banned, so they just kept moving the topic away.
Yep. And it came back to bite them.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm happy for it.
Yep, me too. So, Juicy, I want to ask you a little bit about your opinions and your approach to knighthood. So I don't know if you've ever seen any of the Amtgard Leadership University videos online that Goldcrest did. I love them. Very good. I
want to watch them. I'll think, I'm like, man, I should really look those up, and they'll help me when then I see something shiny. And unfortunately, I have the attention span of a ferret on coke. So I'm easily distracted by everything, and so I never get around to actually watching them.
They're gold, and most of them are a bit old now, but they're very good. But one of the questions that they always ask that I kind of eye rolled at before I was a knight, and now as a knight, I'm like, okay, I get it a little bit more. What does knighthood mean to you, Juicy?
You're a role model. Everything you do, everything you say is going to be criticized and critiqued. So, but you're the face of Amtgard. Mm-hmm. That is your job. And you are in office 24/7. Everything you say and do is going to be taken as if it was the gospel. And you need to make sure that the words coming out of your mouth are what need to be said. And then saying that no one's perfect. We're going to make our mistakes, but the problem is as a knight, when you make those mistakes, it's much worse than when that squire does it, or that man at arms. So, yeah, knighthood to me is being a role model and being the face of Amtgard.
Yeah, I like that. Real quick, I'm going to pull this up. Thank you, Alex, for this. For those who have not seen this yet, ALU is the Amtgard Leadership University. There's the YouTube channel put on by Sir Goldcrest. Amazing content. If you're looking for something, they do panels, 4 to 5 people. They're about an hour long on almost any topic you can think of. Check them out. They're really good.
Bear with me. I am copying, pasting that myself. So maybe I will not be an idiot and look it up for myself. So... All right.
Good. I like what you were saying about the role model. Someone somewhere, I don't know who said it. I heard it before I became a knight, and now it hits me more. you will be someone's first experience with the night.
Yeah. Yep.
And even if that's at park, I don't think that bothers me too much. Like I can handle that, but at events, that's the thing. Like you could be this new player's first introduction to a night. And if you go and you ask anyone who's been playing for a while, they will tell you a story of a bad experience they had with a night. Mm-hmm. And if that's their first experience with a night, it's even worse.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's some weight behind that. Like, I don't want to be the horror story, the night of the horror stories that I've heard. Right. Yeah. So what does it take? Like, what does that entail for you? You talked about the white conscience earlier, the white belt. Like, what does that actually mean when you're showing up at an event and Sir Juicy puts that white belt on? What happens? Like, what do you mean when you say the white conscience?
I know, and I know that I'm most likely going to be someone's first experience, or something they're going to take my word as what I say is going to be more weight than they're going to take of anybody else's. So I have to be careful. Once I got my garb on, I put my belt on, I put on my happy face. I'm smiling, I'm enjoying life. I take every question, as seriously as I can take it. I give that one-on-one FaceTime with that person. I make sure that, when they go home, they're like, I met this great knight. He did this for me. He answered all my questions. Man, I really want to do that. And that makes them, it gets them down the right path to do greater and better things for everybody. Mm. Whereas if they show up and they ask me my question, I'm like, I don't know. I don't care. Go ask someone else. They're going to go home like, well, I didn't like Kingdom. They weren't nice to me. And they may not come back. They may leave. I have seen it's only once. I have seen a player come back from a Kingdom level event and quit. Mm. Because when they met the king was an asshole to them. And I don't know the details or anything, of course. Mm-hmm. But the king was an asshole, and they came back to our park 1 week. They showed up. They said, "Hey, you guys are great, but your leadership sucks, and I don't want to play your game anymore." Mm. And from that, and that hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, there's nothing I can do to fix this. So I will never be that person. And I never will be. I will not. Once that belt comes on, I'm in work mode. I am happy. I'm smiling. I am doing everything I can to make everybody's job more enjoyable. And sometimes it's rough and it wears down on you. But I took that on when I let them knight me. I knew what I was getting into. And me in particular, I had a very, very close relationship with my knight. We were great friends. So, like, I was squired my first year in the game. My first week, I was man-at-arms to Sir Pollux, who was then at the time just Pollux. And then a year in, Crosser went to Pollux and me, and he said, I want to squire the Juice. I see great things in his future, and I want to help that. And Pollux said, "You're right. I can't do for him what you can. And so take care of this." So I was a squire for 8 years, I think. 6 years. I was a squire for 6 years. But because we had such a close relationship, he was able to instill that in me, that once you're knighted, it's a full-time job. You don't get to blow up, because Crosser had a temper. He blew up a couple times at me, actually. And I saw how that wore him down. Every time he blew up, he was just horrified with himself. He was always like, well, this is, damn. So, I refuse to be that for someone, I will always be the best experience. In fact, actually, hold on 1 second. Yeah.
I don't remember if I said them.
All right, I'll take care of it in a little bit. They're fine.
She's in there trying to eat the dog.
I'll take care of them. All right, thank you. Sorry about that, guys.
No worries.
Here in a minute, I'm going to feed my cats real fast, so bear with me. So yeah, we, as a knight, it's you have to be that face, and it always has to be on. So that's why I call it my white conscience, because when I start to feel frustrated and I know I'm about to lose my temper, I just grab it and I turn and walk away and I go to my car. I sit down. I just take a deep breath, just, and then I'm good. Yep. It keeps me in line.
Well, and one of the things I try and push with my belt line and in anybody I have influence over, there is a huge difference between masterhood and knighthood.
Oh yeah.
And the masterhood is all about you. It's I am good enough to achieve the top tier. And not everybody should be taking on the responsibility of what it means to be a knight. And in I know some people, and we'll get to this here in a second, in how you kind of work with your belt line. I don't push my beltlings to be knights. I want them to be masters.
Yeah,
I want them to be the best at their craft. If that's what they want, right? To be the best at their craft. And if they don't want the responsibility that comes with putting other people's fun before their own, which is how I what does knighthood mean to me? Yeah. It's that your fun, especially your fun as a new player, is more important right now than my fun as a knight.
Yep.
And if you're not willing to or can't handle that, that is completely okay. There is no shame in that. Right. I mean, you're a master. That's sick. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You are one of the best in your craft in our kingdom, and if not the entire game.
Yeah.
Rest on those laurels. Don't feel like you need the white belt to complete your, victory lap type of thing.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. Actually, give me one moment.
Yeah, go for it.
Real quick, and then we'll continue this discussion, because I
go for it.
The belt line discussion on this, because
yes,
I have a very particular way I handle my belt line, and which some other people it just doesn't make sense to them, but it works for me. It works for my people. So. All right. So in my line, everyone starts as a man-at-arms or a page, depending on what you want to do. I call my pages my admins. They're the ones that want their path is usually going to be serpent or crown. My men-at-arms tend to be more flame and sword-oriented. So far in my line, I have made a Master Rose, a Master Crown, a Master Dragon, and a Master Garber.
Okay, hold on. Let me guess. I know Jet's your crown.
Yep. Is
she a Master Rose too?
She is now. Yes. Okay. She just got that at keep. So I guess I technically have made two Master Roses. So. Okay. And Sir's Shadow was my first squire to get knighted. He was my Master Rose.
Cool.
And he was a Master Rose and almost a Master Lion too. And then before he passed. Azar was in my belt line as my Master Garber, and I have Zoc now as my Master Dragon. And I claim Narsh as another Master Dragon, because he's my best friend. So I've been he's under Sir Thorvald as an actual squire, but me and Thorvald have both been pushing him. So I get half of him. So I made half of that.
I like it.
And then in my belt line now, it's not, men-at-arms and pages are the same, flat across the board. It's not they both mean the same to me. It's not an up or down. You can go from either of those to squire. One of the rules I have, though, is I will not have a permanent squire. If you don't want to be a knight, don't accept a squire's belt from me, because I'm going to push you. I'm going to teach you to be a knight. That's what I'm doing for a squire. That's what a squire is to me, is someone who's going to be knighted. But at the same time, I won't give a squire's belt unless they have 8 awards in one category and 5 awards in a separate one. So my most, I've actually just made a bunch of squires here recently because my people have all just decided to, jump into things head first. But like, I have Erdogan, who jumped up to 8 Garbers and 8 Dragons, within a year. So she was a page for a year and is now a squire. Kaya went from like 5 roses to 8 roses, and then she has like 5 dragons as well. I have Brill, who has 8 smiths, and 5, I think 6 or 7 dragons too. So, I won't make a squire if they're under 8 because I don't want you worrying about the stuff that a squire don't worry about. Because squires have to worry about other things. Because much like a knight, you are taking on a responsibility. You're people see that red belt and they expect you to help. They think that they just expect you to do things.
It's like when you go into Walmart and they have the ask me questions. That's essentially if you're wearing a colored belt.
Exactly. And red in particular, people see that red belt, they're like, oh, you know what's going on. I'll ask you what to do. So, so I have very stringent rules on who I make because, I haven't always had those rules, but and I hate pulling a belt. I've had to do it a handful of times over the years, and it's I've never liked doing it. I don't ever want to do it again. So if by the time you've reached 8, I feel we have worked a healthy enough relationship at that point to know what is expected of you, what is expected of me, and where you stand.
I'm very similar. My threshold is 7, but for very similar reasons, because I want you to be serious about it, and I don't want a 10-year red belt squire.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not interested in that, and so I understand. But I have also gotten pushback from other people whose belts are much more fluid, which is completely cool. If that works for your belt line, like every night should. Yep. So my question for you is, do your underbelts know that system up front? Like,
yes.
Okay. How does that conversation normally go?
It's usually in the first discussion we have about belts. The reason I use 8 though is I use 7 for a long time. I do 8 now because of Grand Duchies. You can get your 8th at a Grand Duchy. So 9 and 10, has to come from Kingdom. But if you've learned it up to that 8th, you're gonna keep going. Yeah. So Grand Duchies actually had me change that number. It was 7 forever, and then when Midgard formed, like, well, I guess we'll do 8 now. Just 7s are getting handed out like candy. But it's something I tell them up front, like, either I approach them or they approach me and like, hey, I would like to belt you. I want to teach you about this game. I want to work with you. I have very strict rules on squires, which, but that's not going to change our relationship either way. And even now, I have the same relationship with my men-at-arms as I do with my squires. I don't expect more out of them, but I know other people will, so that's why I have my rules. I will teach my men-at-arms the same things I'm teaching my squires, because at the end of the day, I want them all to be knighted, and I want to see them all do the best they can do. But yeah, I'm usually upfront about it. I'm very open and fluid with my rules. I want them to know everything. No hidden agendas, no shocks. They need to know everything going in. So. And so I think you just said it, but I just want to clarify. You are okay with asking people, and you are okay with other people asking you. Yep, I've had both of them happen. So yeah, I just certainly don't take offense when someone's like, "Hey, I'd like to be in your belt," and I'm like, "Well, let's talk about it. We'll see how things go." It's never like, sure, here you go, and I hand them a belt, and then we move on. And say, well, how about let's get to know each other. Well, and I just want to reiterate that, because I don't think I've ever talked to a knight who has been opposed to people talking about, like, asking them for a belt. And I think there's this big stigma. If
at least for me, and it sounds like for you, and most of the nights I know, if you think as an individual that you would click well with a particular knight or a particular knight's leadership style or crafts, whatever it is, and you think that you want to start to form that relationship, approach that knight. Yeah. Again, 9 out of 10 knights are open to that. They're not, now you might not get a yes, right? But like what Sir Juicy said here, hey, let's start this conversation. Let's see if we can, let's chat a little bit. Yeah. And let's see if we can make it work. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
You may not be right for me, but maybe you're right for him. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not great, but I bet you'll be great with Godric. Go talk to him instead. I actually just recently sent someone to Daedra. I don't think you're going to do great in my line, but I think you'll do good with Daedra. Go talk to her. So.
Yep. That's one of the things I tell my underbelts as well, like up front. If at any point you or I feel that there is another knight who will help you progress with your goals faster or better or whatever the case may be.
Let's talk to them.
Tell me. Like, even if you've been in my belt line for 2 years and you feel that Juicy is going to help you better with your next step, let me know and I will help you get in contact with Juicy and make sure Juicy knows he has my blessing. He's not poaching. He's not stealing. Right. Like, I want you to be successful. And if you think you can be more successful somewhere else, let's set you up to be the best that you can be.
Yep. Raven was in my belt line for a godly amount of years. I built him when he was like 12. So he's been with me forever. When he decided to push for his sword path, he came to me. He's like, hey, I think Potato would do better for me right now. What do you think? And I'm like, go for it. He's a sword knight. He will do better. If you think he will teach you more than I can teach you, go for it. No hard feelings. You do what you need to do. And Potato pushed him over the edge, and he got that Warlord and sword belt. And I'm very proud of, what I was able to teach him, and then what Potato was able to teach him, where he is now. Mm-hmm. So you just talk to us. We're people. Talk to us. We'll figure things out. And if you're under another knight and you think that I can help you, you don't have to be my squire for me to teach you what you need to learn. If you want to work on, I'm well known for being a Florentine fighter. If you want to work on Florentine and you're Declan's squire, that's fine. I will gladly teach you what you need to learn to Florentine, and I'll show you everything you need to know, and we go from there.
Yep. 100%. We don't need a formal relationship for me to teach you how to make a sword.
Exactly.
Or like for me to teach you, hey, I'm going to be judging this A&S event. Do you want to shadow under me? You can be outside my belt line and we can have all of that information transfer is fine. Yep. That doesn't have to be formal.
We're all here to help each other. Yep.
Yep. So I'm gonna move a little bit now away from belt lines to another topic near and dear to my heart. Let's talk about fighting companies and households. How do you feel? What's your history? Where are you at? Give me the rundown on Sir Juicy when it comes to fighting companies and households. I'm only in a handful of households, and I've been in all of them for a decade plus. Households aren't really a big deal to me. They're just, and I don't need to be in a household to do certain things. I do them. They're fighting companies, though. I've been in a lot of fighting companies. You left me, Juicy. I joined FC, and within like 3 weeks, you left me.
Yep. Yeah, I've had a couple people tell me that. I've been in, like I said, I think I've been in 9 companies over the years, and a couple repeats where I left because there was some bad blood between me and some of the members, and I didn't like the direction that they were going. So I left, but then a year or two down the line, they didn't go the direction I thought they were going to go, or they've come back from that direction. So I went back. That's what happened to FC. Things weren't good in the company between my personal life and the company life. I couldn't get them to work together. And so one had to go. Unfortunately, it was FC. I had to leave for a while. I went and joined SI. I did really well with them. And then they folded. And so I was without a company for a year and a half. And I didn't plan on going to be in another company. I'm like, I don't need to be in a company to do what I need to do. I've been doing this long enough. If I want to fight with a team, they'll let me fight with them. And so I went to Declan. I'm like, hey, I'd like to fight with you guys at Bridge Wars. And he's like, well, let me talk to the guys to make sure they're fine with it, but I don't see a problem with this. And that's what happened. You know, me and Narsh came on for the Bridge Wars team. And of course, Xander, being the obstinate pain in the ass that he is, wouldn't leave me alone about joining. So I'm like, I really like fighting with these guys. I like where they are. I like where I am. Let's go back. And so I joined again. And it's really neat because most of you guys are new. Well, you're all new to me at least.
Yeah.
There's, most of the players that were around when I was around don't play anymore. So,
you left, let's see, I think I've been in FC for 5 years now. And you left right as I was coming in. And so we've got 4 years of growth there. And then coming back, I feel like it would be kind of neat to see that, like, from the outside looking in, like the differences and what's the same and what's changed and new faces and culture shifts.
See the new dynamic in the company and how things are going to work. And all the new fresh faces. I like new people.
Yep.
It's the old guard in me. It's new players. I'm like, oh, new player smell. Yeah.
I love it. So what role do you think fighting companies hold in our game? Are they a net positive, a net negative? I
think they're net positive for most of the time. You occasionally get bad companies, and they'll do they'll be battle around. But I think as a whole, companies are good for our game. It's really nice to have that group of friends that you can fight with, and you can rely on. That are a support structure for you. Big believer in support structures in this game. They will help you excel.
Well, and in a very similar way to Beltlines, right? If I'm running an event and I need something, I can say, hey, do you see that guy right there? That's my squire. If you need anything, you go ask him. In a very similar way, I do the same thing with my fighting company. If we have new players out of the park, I go, hey, look, these 3 or 4 guys over here that are in blue and green, if you need anything today, if I'm busy teaching somebody or if I'm running a game and you have a question, you grab any of these guys, they will help you. And I know they will. And I lean on my company quite a bit as that support structure, but especially with teaching new players and, hey, can you spar with this dude for a minute? I got to go help over here and pull them. And I love being able to lean on those guys.
I actually just, I had someone come to me recently with a problem, and they're like, I don't know what to do if this problem comes up in an event. And I'm like, you look for the first person that's wearing blue and green. You tell them that I sent you to them and that they need to take care of you, and they will take care of you.
Yep. 100%.
And I know that my boys will take care of this person, and I don't have to worry about them. Because I'm day tripping, just most likely day tripping. So I don't think I'm gonna have the money for a cabin, and I don't camp in Ohio in March. So more power to you people that like to. I'm old. I don't do that. So November and March, I don't camp. So I either get a cabin or a hotel, and I don't think I'll be able to afford either because I'll be moving in with my girlfriend. So all my money's tied up. So I'm just day tripping. But they were concerned at nightlife, like, well, if you're not there, or if these people weren't there, but this person's bothering me, I'm like, we got you. I know who will help you, and I know my boys will take care of you. You just tell them I sent you, and you're good to go. So even with all the new fresh faces, I trust every one of them boys to take care of my person for me.
Yep. And it's very similar to when I talk with people in our company with kids, right? Sometimes bringing kids to an event is a scary thing, right? People do drink a lot, and there's like one of the things that couple of my friends with kids, it's like, I feel safe with my kids. They know they can go up to anybody in these colors, and that if they get lost, if they need help, if they have trained their kids, if you need help, look for these colors. And they know without a shot, like, no matter what's going on, we're going to get your kid back to safety.
Exactly. Yep.
And I think that's a cool structure. And I'm sure there are other companies that are out there that do that, right? It's not just our company.
Yeah, I know there's other, because I've been in a lot of companies, so I know there's other companies that do similar things. So yeah, it's fairly common across the board that we all take care of each other in and out.
Yeah. So Juicy, we've got a little bit of time here left. I'm going to roll into my personal favorite segment of the show, and it is the Mount Rushmore. So you've got 3 masterhoods. So you've got 3 different ones here. Yep. So we'll start with your Rose path. If you were making a Mount Rushmore, top 4 people in Rose, whose faces are you putting on the Rose Mount Rushmore and why?
So I'm going to start this with Michael Hammer of God, Mhog, is my number 1 for all of them. He is a 4-belter, and he deserves to be on that Rushmore for all 4 of them. I love Mikey, and that man has put in the time and energy and has done great things for our game. So he's the top of the list all across the board. I love Mikey. He's one of my favorite people in the game. Sir Leaf, who was a big, he was a sword and flame, and I actually don't know. I don't remember what his flame was for. I think it was for, but I may be wrong. But service-wise, that man did amazing things for us back. He was always there to pick up trash or step into a position and help. And I never saw him standing still at an event. He was always teaching or doing something. He will also be on my Warlord one as well. But he was never sitting still. He was always helping or pushing or doing something great, just to make the game better for everybody. My Knight Crosser was another one that's in the same boat. I never saw him sitting still. He had 18 roses when he stopped playing. Wow. Yeah. So he's done a few things to help.
So one more.
God, it's hard to narrow it down.
Yeah.
Who would I put on there? Sir Blackhawk out of Golden Vale. He's a 4-belter. And actually, you know what? I'm putting a 5th on there because I'm putting Amron from Golden Vale as well. Both of them were big influences on me when I was going down my Rose path starting out. They're who I looked up to. If Crosser didn't have an answer for me, one of those 2 did. So they helped groom me on that path coming up. So yeah, I actually got 5 that I would throw.
Hey, that's all right.
For Crown, I don't know. Mikey, of course. Megiddo, I think Noah's an amazing Crown Knight and does great things. Blackhawk again, like I said, he's a 4-belter. He's rivals me with how many times and how many offices he's held throughout the game. Declan. I would throw Declan on there. He, especially in Crown, watching him be a leader definitely helped groom me to do the similar things.
He was king 4 times, 5 times?
Yeah, he's a Grand Duke. He's been king. He's held countless offices across the board, and just seeing him step up and lead like he did, as always, and Thorvald. Thorvald holds a special place in my heart, because he groomed me really a lot. He had a lot to do with with me coming up into the game. Crosser and Thorvald were who I looked up to and who I wanted to aspire to be. They just, the way they carried themselves just was what I wanted. And hopefully I am there now. But even now they're, when I have questions or concerns about leadership, I go to Thorvald and Declan. Like, hey guys, I need a little help. Help me out here. You know, they're my go-to crowns. Warlords or sword knights. Leaf is one of the best in my opinion, is one of the best fighters our game has ever seen. He moved like he didn't have bones. I mean, he just was so fluid in the way he moved. It was just astounding to watch him fight.
I think he's been on every single list of sword knights that I've asked.
Yeah, everyone looks up to Leaf. Like, what he did was amazing. He had a shot. We call it the money shot, and I still throw it to this day. He brings his sword across your eyes, comes down, and hits you on your hip. And he would fake everyone under the sun out of their shoes. He'd throw here, everything would go there. He just smoothly comes in and hit you. And I watched him do that countless times. And every time I went, he's not going to do it to me. He's not going to do it to me. I blocked it once out of 50. Every time you just, and as soon as you did it, you just stopped and waited for the shot to come. You're like, I'm done. I can't fix this. Oh, there was the hit. I'm done now. Like, they're just, Sir Arthon was, he made me want to be a better Florentiner. Because he used to say, what do you do to Florentiners? You stab them. Why? Because they deserve it. He was a sword and border. He was a torch, and they were all sword and borders. Their left arm, they call it their T-Rex arm. All you could do was hold a shield off of it. But yeah, he would stab the shit out of Florentiners over and over again. And I have been described as a painful sword stab block, because I push down so hard that I throw your arm out of the socket because you are not stabbing me. He had a bamboo handle, so he would stab you and then squeak his handle, and it would make less squeaking noise. And when you heard that, you felt discouraged. Like, I shouldn't be on the field with this man. I just don't deserve this anymore. And you just walked away in shame. Mikey, of course, like I said, he'll be across all of mine. He's another one that is great at selling fakes. He's a big guy, but he can sell he'll make your defense move. When I tell people the difference between a warlord and the mid tiers, or your high tiers and your mid tiers, is I don't wait for an opening to throw my shot. I make the opening to throw my shot. I'm gonna fake you here. I'm gonna throw something here or over here, so your guard moves, and then I hit you. And Mikey is a master at that. Last time I fought him, he can still fake me out of my shoes. He did it to me again, and I knew it was coming. Like, my brain, in my head, I'm like, all right, he is going to do this. He has done this to you for 20 years. He's going to do this. Prepare. And he still did it to me. I still moved my guard, and then as soon as it moved, I just stopped and waited for him to hit me. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, you win. Like, as soon as I locked up, he didn't even throw the shot. He just looked at me confused. He's like, what are you doing? Like, you win. My guard's here. I can't block this. You're going to hit me in the shoulder, and you win. He's like, well, you can try. I'm like, no, I can't, Mike. I'm going to get to here, and you're going to hit me. So I'm just going to wait and take it. So it's just, yeah. And another one of my favorites is an old guy out of I'm going to do 5 on this one too, because I can. Sir Thor. This man did not move like humans. He was a robot. The old joke was that they built him out of old Warlord parts. He stood like this and just moved like this and blocked. If you came at him from the side, he'd turn his hips and his feet would still be facing forward, and he blocks over here, and he turns and does the same thing over here. Like, human beings shouldn't move like that. And not only did he move like that, he destroyed people like that.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's the funniest thing to watch. Another one close and dear to me is Sir Haggis out of Maryland. We did not get along when we first met each other. In fact, we hated each other when we first met each other. We did not see eye to eye. We did not like each other. But we, over the years of just being around each other in Maryland, we got to know each other better. And I'd like to say we became good friends. And he taught me a lot on Florentine, and even now that how my style of fighting is, I'm a very defensive fighter. I block in the repost, block strike. And he taught that to me, and he ingrained it into my brain. He showed me those things. It's called the rogue style, the block strike. And then that's who taught it to me. And it's still how I kill people to this day. Thorvald likes to tell people, he's like, you want to kill Juicy, make him throw first. Because if you throw at him, he's going to kill you. Like, don't tell people my secrets, Carrie. And then I go and do it on a live feed. But yeah, if you want to beat me, make me throw first.
That's funny. Navrin did something similar. He told me, so Randy Bain was just smoking me one-on-ones. We were just having fun. And Navrin comes up and goes, hey, you need to do, I won't say it because Randy got really upset when Navrin told me, but you need to do this particular thing and you will get Randy's head. And then I did it the next fight. And Randy just looks at Navrin like serious. Just like, hey, don't tell people that, please. Like,
I can see Randy's face saying it too. Like, no, Tony, don't do that. I did the same thing with Thorvald when we're at a tournament, and actually he told you and Madness, he's like, don't throw it Juicy first. You come in the ring, you're standing there. I'm like, I gave Carrie the dirtiest look. you know what you did.
I love it. So
Juicy, and you killed me when I threw my shot, and I was very angry.
As we close up here, are there any, I don't know, hot button or current affairs, current events, or any topic that I just didn't ask you about that you got a few minutes here before we close that you want to speak on?
Not really. We covered just about everything I can think of for us to covering mostly. Event season is going to be starting up soon, so definitely Midgard's events start in April. Kingdom starts in March. Be safe. Definitely follow all our current guidelines and everything. Be safe. But I look forward to seeing everybody at events and trying to get some normalcy back to our game for everything that's going on in the world.
So I've got in 3 weeks. I've got my first event in 2 years, year and a half, 2 years since COVID. Jeez, and I'm so excited. Like I have been waiting and I'm stoked.
In April, Midgard is having, I think it's our coronation. Artie's running it, and I'm really excited to see what he's gonna do with it. So if you can get I don't know what the dates are yet. They haven't posted them, but I'm gonna plaster those dates everywhere because I want to see as many people at this event supporting Artie as I can. And because Midgard we have a great site. If you've never been to a Midgard event, come to one. We have a wooded area with trails and bunkers and all kinds of fun stuff for us to play with. So yeah, definitely come out to a Midgard event. You're going to love it. No one has ever left Midgard saying, oh man, those woods just weren't fun enough. Like, so, capture the flag in the woods is a blast.
Cool. If you get me the dates for those, I'll throw those in the show notes for the coming up events. So if people are interested,
see what I can do. Because I bet Artie has them planned out and he just hasn't told me yet. So.
Cool. Well, listeners, we are wrapping up this episode of The Archive with Sir Juicy. Had a great time speaking with you, sir. Thank you very much. Viewers, if you've made it this far, made it all the way to the end, you are the real ones. We love you. We appreciate you. If you're interested, not only now are we streaming on Facebook and YouTube, I've also got this up on Apple iTunes and the Spotify and everywhere. If you're looking for an audio version, dungeon. We've got that up and going now too. So thank you, Sir Hold on, let me close with the title again. Baron, Baronet, Warlord, Darth, Lord, Master, Juicy, Kresh, Esquire, Defender of the Rising Winds from the Duchy of Blackfire Pass. Sir, really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's a blast. I always have fun with this stuff.
Good, man. I'm glad. Everybody, I'm St. Godric. That's Sir Juicy. We'll see you next time.